Welcome back to the channel. These stories are meant for late nights, quiet rooms, and headphones on. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let's begin the first story. I've been driving long-haul rigs for 23 years. Once you've logged a few million miles, the highway becomes more familiar than your own living room. You learn the moods of the road, the way fog settles in low valleys, the way certain stretches feel wrong even when nothing looks out of place. Most drivers talk about bad weather stories, black ice in Wyoming, flash floods in Texas, a crosswind in Kansas that'll push 80,000 pounds sideways like a toy. But drivers who stay in the game long enough eventually whisper about stranger things, phantom hitchhikers, radios that answer back, roads that don't lead where they should. I never believed any of it, not until the night I crossed the northern Nevada flats on Route 50. They call it the loneliest road in America. Miles of desert, salt flats, dead towns, and radio silence. No towers, no signal, just the hum of your engine and your own thoughts growing louder than they should. I was hauling refrigeration units from Sacramento to Denver. A tight schedule, overnight run. It was late spring, but the desert still held the day's heat like an oven. Even with the AC blowing full, the cab smelled faintly of sun-baked vinyl and old coffee. I rolled out of Fallon around 10:40 p.m. The moon was huge, low, orange. The sky was cloudless, too clear, too still. No wind, no coyotes yipping, no insects, just silence stretching out across the land. By mile marker 112, the world outside my windshield had reduced to two colors, silver moonlight and black earth. That's when I noticed the headlights. At first, I thought nothing of it. Another trucker maybe, someone pacing their speed. It happens. Some drivers tail for miles without ever passing. But after 15 minutes, the lights stayed at the exact same distance. Not gaining, not falling back. Perfectly steady. I flicked on my CB. "Evening, driver. You pacing me back there?" Static. I switched channels. Nothing. Tried again. "You got a copy on me?" Silence. No carrier tone, no background hiss, just dead air. That was strange. CBs always catch something out here, even if it's just skip chatter or random bleed. I shrugged it off. Maybe their radio was broken. Maybe they didn't feel like talking. But the headlights bothered me. They weren't normal. Instead of clean white beams, they had a faint green tint, like old night vision screens. It was subtle, but once I noticed, I couldn't unsee it. Around mile marker 129, the radio station I'd been listening to crackled. The classic rock cut out mid-song. The speaker hissed. Then a voice pushed through. Not the DJ, not music, just a low, rough whisper. "You passed it." My hand froze on the steering wheel. I leaned toward the radio. "Hello?" The station snapped back. Song resumed like nothing happened. I sat back, telling myself it was interference, desert storms, old wiring, anything normal. But a few minutes later, the radio did it again. This time, the voice said, "You can't turn back." I shut the radio off. The hum of the engine filled the cab. My breathing sounded too loud. I watched the green-tinted headlights in my mirror. They stayed exactly where they were. At mile marker 141, I saw something standing beside the road. At first, I thought it was a road sign, but as my headlights hit it, I realized it was a person. A man, standing still, facing the highway. He wore a faded denim jacket and a ball cap pulled low. His skin looked gray in the harsh light. Not pale, not tan, just dust-colored, like he'd been baked by the sun for years. He didn't wave, didn't step back, didn't move at all. As I passed, I glanced in my side mirror. He was gone. Not walking away, not stepping back into the dark, just gone. My stomach tightened. I checked the mirror again. The green headlights were still behind me. At mile marker 152, my GPS flickered. The map froze, then the screen went black. No power, no signal. The clock on the dashboard blinked 0000. That's when the CB crackled again. Same voice, closer this time, like it was sitting in the passenger seat. It ends on the salt. I swallowed. Who are you? Static, then laughter, thin, dry, too slow to be human. I didn't slam the brakes, not yet, but my foot eased off the accelerator. I needed to think, to get control. Then something else happened. The headlights behind me vanished, just gone. No fading, no passing, no turning off. 1 second they were there. Next second, empty darkness. I exhaled, trying to convince myself the danger was over. Then I saw the billboard. A rusted metal sign on the right side of the road. Faded letters, half missing. A smiling cartoon chef holding a pie. Lucy's Diner, home of the silver crust pie. I remembered that sign. Every trucker out here knew it. Lucy's had closed down a decade ago, torn apart by storms and vandalism. I passed it. 5 minutes later, I saw it again. Same rust, same bullet hole through the chef's hat, same crooked post leaning left. My odometer kept climbing. My fuel gauge dropped slowly. Everything in the truck said I was moving forward, but the road outside said otherwise. I gripped the wheel so hard my fingers hurt. The radio turned itself on. Static, then the whisper, "Stay on the road." Something tapped the passenger side window from outside. Light, gentle, 3 taps. There was nothing out there but desert. I didn't look. I stared forward. Sweat rolled down my back despite the cold air from the vents. Tapping moved to the driver's window. Tap, tap, tap. My name followed it, spoken in that same low gravel voice, right beside my ear. I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. Then the headlights returned in my mirror. Green. Closer this time. Much closer. So close I could see the outline of the vehicle. Not a car. Not a modern truck. An old rig. Square-nosed. Rusted. With no company markings. No license plate. Just corroded metal and those unnatural green beams. No driver visible behind its windshield. I swallowed hard. The voice came again through the CB, softer now. "Pull over." I shook my head even though no one could see. The truck behind me flashed its lights once. Green light flooded my cab, and every gauge on my dashboard dropped to 0. Speed, fuel, RPM, all dead. The engine kept running, but the truck felt weightless, like it wasn't touching the road anymore. The whisper returned. "Welcome to the stretch."
The moment every gauge dropped to 0, I knew I was no longer on any road that belonged to the real world. The engine still rumbled beneath me, steady and strong, yet the truck felt wrong. There was no vibration through the steering wheel, no resistance in the pedals. It was like sitting inside a running machine that had been lifted off the ground. The green headlights behind me flooded the cab again. My windshield glowed sickly emerald. The desert ahead vanished beneath the unnatural light. I could see grains of dust hanging in the air, frozen like stars. Then the radio spoke without static, without distortion, a clean voice now, calm, patient. "You've driven this road long enough. You know what comes next." I swallowed hard. My mouth felt dry as chalk. "I don't know what you want," I said. My voice sounded small in the cab. The voice did not answer immediately. Instead, the world outside the windshield changed. The highway stretched ahead, but it was no longer Nevada. The asphalt was cracked like old leather. Salt shimmered across the surface, glowing pale under a sky that had no moon and no stars, just a deep, empty black. The edges of the road dissolved into white flats that spread endlessly in all directions. I knew this place without knowing how. The salt. "It ends on the salt," the voice had said earlier. My truck rolled forward without me pressing the accelerator. The wheel turned slightly under my hands, guiding itself. I tried the brakes. The pedals sank to the floor with no resistance. "Stop," I whispered. The truck ignored me. The green headlights behind drew closer until the old rusted rig filled my mirror. I could see details now. Flaking paint, bent exhaust stacks, a cracked windshield veined like spider webs. Still no driver. The radio clicked once. "You're late," the voice said. "Late for what?" "For your turn." Cold dread slid down my spine. "I'm not pulling over." The voice sighed, almost kindly. "Everyone says that." The truck slowed anyway, not to a stop, but to a crawl. The salt road stretched ahead into infinity. The air outside the cab shimmered like heat, but there was no warmth, only dead stillness. Then something appeared ahead. At first, it was just a shape, a structure rising from the salt. As we drew closer, I recognized it. A diner. Old, rusted, windows dark, a faded sign swaying on broken chains. "Lucy's Diner, home of the silver crust pie." My stomach turned. I had passed that sign twice already. Now the entire diner stood here in the middle of nowhere, where no town existed. The truck rolled to a stop in front of it. My door locks clicked open by themselves. Behind me, the old rig shut off. Its green headlights blinked out. Silence fell so completely I could hear my heartbeat. The radio spoke again, but the voice now came from everywhere. "Go inside." "No," I said. The door handle moved on its own. My door swung open. Cold air washed into the cab. It smelled like dust and old grease and something sour underneath. My body refused to move, but my hands left the wheel. My feet stepped down onto the salt road. I wasn't choosing it. Something else was. The diner door creaked open before I touched it. Warm yellow light spilled out. Inside, the place looked frozen in time. Vinyl booths cracked and peeling, a counter with spinning stools, a pie display case with fogged glass, a radio on the counter playing a song from the 1970s. Behind the counter stood a woman in a faded apron. She smiled. Not warmly, not coldly, just expectedly. "You're here," she said. My voice came out thin. "Where am I?" She wiped the counter with a rag that didn't actually clean anything. The stretch, the road between roads. I turned toward the window. Outside, my truck sat alone on the salt. The old rusted rig was gone. I turned back to her. "I need to leave." She nodded. "You will, eventually." My skin prickled. "What is this place?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Every long road collects drivers who don't make it home. Some fall asleep, some crash, some disappear. The road remembers them, their engines, their routes, their last drives." A slow understanding began to form, and I didn't want it to. She continued. "They drive here now, forever, keeping the stretch alive, keeping the road fed." I shook my head. "No, I'm alive. I'm going home." Her smile faded just slightly. "Everyone says that." A bell rang above the diner door. I turned. A man walked in wearing a denim jacket and a ball cap pulled low, gray skin, dust-colored, standing perfectly still. The same man from the roadside. He slid into a booth, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Behind him came another, a woman with hollow eyes and road grime on her face. Then another. Then another. Silent figures filling booths and stools, all dressed like travelers, all with that same empty, waiting stillness. The woman behind the counter set a pie on the counter in front of me, silver crust shimmering faintly under the light. "Eat," she said. "Then you'll understand." I backed away slowly. "I'm not staying here." The lights flickered. The radio on the counter turned to static, and then I heard it. Engines, dozens of them, roaring outside, idling, revving, like an entire truck stop had appeared beyond the walls. The woman's voice lowered to a whisper. "If you leave without eating, you'll drive the stretch forever, like them." She gestured to the silent diners. "If you eat, you become part of the road, here, with us." My chest tightened. 2 choices, both sounded like damnation. The bell rang again. I turned toward the door. A final figure entered. Tall, wearing a trucker's cap, grease-stained jacket, hands black with oil. He lifted his head, and I saw my own face looking back at me. My breath caught in my throat. He smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. For a moment, I floated in nothingness. No sound, no sensation, no body. Then, a horn blared. My eyes snapped open. I was in my cab. Sunlight poured through the windshield, warm, golden, real. My engine idled. My gauges worked. My GPS showed Route 50, Nevada desert stretching ahead under a clear morning sky. I grabbed the steering wheel, gasping. My coffee cup sat in the holder, still warm. Had I fallen asleep? Had it been a dream? I wiped sweat from my forehead and looked at the clock. 6:17 a.m. Hours gone. I looked in my mirror. No green headlights, no rusted rig, just empty highway. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. Then I noticed something on the passenger seat. A white cardboard box, grease soaking through the bottom. Inside, a slice of pie with a silver-colored crust. A small note sat beside it, written in neat handwriting. "See you next time." My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the note. I threw the box out the window onto the desert road. It vanished into the wind. I drove the rest of the way to Denver in silence. No radio, no CB, no stops. I quit long-haul driving 2 weeks later, sold my rig, took a local delivery job. No highways at night, no desert runs, no lonely roads. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear an engine idling outside. Just once. Just long enough for me to know it's there. Waiting. I was 25 when I took the night job at Hollow Creek Public Records Office. It wasn't a career choice, it was desperation. My rent had gone up, my savings were gone, and Hollow Creek was the only town within 50 miles that still posted "now hiring" signs on real bulletin boards instead of online. Hollow Creek itself felt forgotten, a Pennsylvania mountain town wrapped in thick forest with one blinking traffic light, a gas station that never changed its prices, and a diner that smelled like burnt oil no matter what time of day you walked in. The Public Records Building sat at the end of Main Street, a brick rectangle with narrow windows and a faded state emblem above the door. The job was simple: digitize old documents, death certificates, land deeds, archived police reports, everything the town no longer needed but refused to throw away. My shift ran from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. because the system server updated overnight and no one wanted to pay daytime employees overtime for scanning. I didn't mind nights. I liked quiet. I liked being alone with a task. It made my brain calm. On my first night, my supervisor, Mrs. Kavanaugh, gave me a key ring and a thin folder. "Don't open the basement," she said, like it was an afterthought. I laughed. "Why, ghosts?" She didn't laugh back. "There's nothing down there for you," she said. "Everything you'll scan is on the second floor. If you hear noises, ignore them. Old pipes, old building." Then she left, locking the front door behind her. Her car headlights swept across the windows once, then disappeared down the street. That was my introduction. The office at night was dim but clean. Rows of metal filing cabinets, a humming scanner, fluorescent lights that buzzed just a little too loud. I settled into a routine quickly. Grab a file, scan, enter data, return file, repeat. For the first week, nothing unusual happened. Then, late one Tuesday night, I found a folder that wasn't on the list. It sat on top of my desk when I returned from the restroom. A thin manila folder, no label, no barcode, no date. I knew I hadn't left it there. I was meticulous about keeping my workspace clear. Inside was a single photograph, a black and white image of a woman standing in front of the Hollow Creek Records building. Same brick walls, same emblem, same front steps. She wore a long coat and a scarf. Her hair was pinned back in a style that suggested the 1950s, but it was her eyes that made my breath hitch. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking directly into it. I put the photo back into the folder and slid it into a drawer, telling myself someone had probably misfiled it earlier. Still, I locked that drawer. The next night, the folder was back on my desk. This time, I didn't touch it. I left it where it was and continued working. I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a folder, just paper. At 1:17 a.m., the lights flickered. Not unusual in Hollow Creek. Storms hit often, power lines were old. But instead of going out, every light in the building dimmed to a weak yellow glow. The scanner stopped, the computer froze, the emergency battery kicked in with a faint beep. I stood up to check the hallway. That's when I heard it. A slow, dragging sound. From below. From the basement. I froze, remembering Mrs. Kavanaugh's words, "Don't open the basement." The dragging stopped. Then a single soft knock echoed up through the floor. I retreated to my desk, locked the drawer with the folder, and sat down. My heart hammered hard enough that I could feel it in my fingertips. The power returned 10 minutes later. Bright lights, normal humming, no more noises. I worked faster after that. On Thursday night, I brought a thermos of coffee and headphones to drown out the building's sounds. By midnight, I had settled into the rhythm again. At 12:42 a.m., the scanner printed an extra page I hadn't fed into it. A blank sheet slid out, warm to the touch. Except it wasn't blank. A single sentence had been printed in faint gray ink. "Stop digitizing the dead." I stared at it, pulse roaring in my ears. I checked the document feeder, nothing inside. Checked the computer's print history, no record of the page. I shut down the scanner, powered off the computer, packed my bag. I was ready to walk out, but when I reached the front door, the key refused to turn. I tried again, nothing. I called Mrs. Kavanaugh, straight to voicemail. I called the town's after-hours line, no answer. Outside the windows, the street was empty. No cars, no lights in the diner, no glow from the gas station sign, as if the entire town had gone to sleep at once. Behind me, the scanner turned on by itself. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what it printed this time. I walked to the break room instead and tried the back exit. Locked. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. A door at the end of the hallway, painted the same color as the wall. No sign, no handle, except now it had a handle, and the handle was turning slowly from the other side. I stepped backward, every instinct screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The handle stopped. Silence. Then a voice spoke through the door. Soft, feminine, familiar. "You opened the folder." My breath came shallow. "Who are you?" "You put me in the drawer," the voice said. "I don't belong in drawers." I shook my head, backing away further. "I'm leaving," I said. "Open the front door." The voice laughed gently. "You're already inside the records." A low dragging sound returned, closer this time, like something heavy being pulled across concrete. I turned and bolted down the hallway toward the main room. As I ran, every light flickered again, strobing darkness and brightness in rapid pulses. I reached my desk. The drawer was open. The folder lay on top of the scanner. The photograph was gone. I didn't stay to look for it. I grabbed my bag and ran toward the emergency exit door near the stairwell. The push bar resisted at first, then gave way. Cold night air hit my face. I ran out into the empty street, not stopping until I reached my car. I locked the doors and drove straight home without checking the rearview mirror. I didn't sleep that day, or the next. By Monday evening, I convinced myself I had overreacted. Old building, electrical faults, a prank, stress. I needed the job, so I went back. Mrs. Kavanaugh met me at the door, as if she had been waiting. "You left early Friday," she said. I nodded. "The building doesn't like being abandoned mid-shift," she replied calmly. "But you came back. That means it accepts you." I didn't know what to say to that. She handed me my keyring again. "Don't open the basement," she repeated, "and don't take any photographs home." That night, as I sat at my desk and powered on the scanner, I noticed something new. A small name tag had been placed above my workstation, printed neatly, "Archivist, Night Shift." Below it, in smaller, faded letters, almost rubbed away, "Replacement for L. Harper, 1956. I stared at it for a long time, because I knew with absolute certainty that tag had not been there before, and deep inside, something cold whispered that the woman in the photograph had once sat in exact this same chair, and that I had just taken her place. I told myself I wouldn't look at the name tag again, but of course I did. Every time I sat down at that desk, my eyes drifted to it. Archivist, Night Shift, replacement for L. Harper, 1956. Replacement. Not successor, not new hire. Replacement. I Googled the name the next morning. L. Harper, Hollow Creek. Nothing. No obituary, no missing person record, no mention in town history. It was as if the person had never existed. By Tuesday night, I had decided I was done. I would finish the week so I could get my final paycheck, then leave Hollow Creek. I didn't care if I had to sleep in my car and drive back to the city. Anything was better than spending another night inside that building. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp. Mrs. Kavanaugh let me in, same as always, then locked the door behind me. This time, before she left, she placed something on my desk. A key. Old brass. Heavy. Cold. "For the basement," she said. I stared at it. "You told me never to open it." "I told you there was nothing for you down there," she replied. "That changed when your name appeared." I swallowed. "My name?" She pointed at the name tag. Beneath the faded L. Harper, new letters had been engraved. My name. Perfectly etched, like it had always been there. I backed away from the desk. "I didn't do that." "I know," Mrs. Kavanaugh said. "No one alive did." She walked to the door. "If you want to keep leaving every night," she said quietly, "you need to finish what she started." Then she left and locked me in. For the first hour, I didn't work. I just sat there staring at the key. The building felt different now. Not hostile, not even threatening. Patient. Like it had been waiting decades for someone to sit in this chair again. At 9:43 p.m., the scanner turned on by itself. A folder slid from the feeder, even though nothing had been placed inside. A death certificate printed. Name, Harper, Lillian. Date of death, blank. Cause of death, incomplete. At the bottom, in faded text, return to origin location for final filing. I closed my eyes, took a long breath, and finally accepted what I had been avoiding. This was never a job. It was a handoff. At midnight, I took the key and walked to the basement door. Up close, it was worse than I remembered. The paint had bubbled like old blisters. Rust leaked from the hinges like dried blood. The air around it felt colder than the rest of the building. My hand shook as I inserted the key. It turned smoothly. The door opened inward without a sound. Darkness stretched below into concrete stairs. No lights, no switch, just black. I used my flashlight from stepping down. Each stair groaned under my weight. The air grew damp, heavy, smelling of old paper and something metallic. At the bottom, the beam of my flashlight landed on rows of shelves. Not filing cabinets, boxes. Cardboard archive boxes stacked floor to ceiling, each with a handwritten label. Names. Hundreds of names, all followed by the same words. Night Archivist. I moved closer. One box sat open on a table in the center of the room. Inside was a stack of photographs, black and white, color, digital prints. People standing in the exact room upstairs, sitting at my desk, smiling, working, all ages, all decades. Then I found the most recent photograph, taken from behind the scanner. A person sitting in my chair, wearing my jacket, my hair, my posture. The photo was dated 2 nights into the future. I dropped it. A sound came from behind the shelves. That dragging sound again, slow, heavy, familiar. I turned my flashlight towards it and saw her, the woman from the first photograph. She stood barefoot on the concrete floor. Her clothes were outdated, her skin pale and dry, but her eyes were clear and alive. Too alive. "You opened my drawer," she said softly. "You're Lillian," I whispered. She nodded once. "I was hired in 1956. They told me not to open the basement, not to touch the special files, but curiosity is part of the job, isn't it?" She stepped closer. No sound, no footfall, just movement. "What is this place?" I asked. "The town needed a memory," she said. "Somewhere to keep what it didn't want to remember. Missing people, unsolved deaths, things that should have left but didn't. The records building became the container. The archivist became the lock." I shook my head. "I'm not staying here." She smiled gently. Neither did I. The dragging sound stopped. The air behind me grew colder. A whisper brushed my ear. "You're already in the file." I turned sharply. Behind me stood dozens of figures, some solid, some flickering, all wearing expressions of quiet resignation. Former night archivists. Every replacement. They watched me with hollow patience. Lillian held out her hand. "You have 2 choices," she said. "Leave tonight and Hollow Creek will forget you existed. Your records will vanish, your history, your name. No one will remember you ever lived." I thought about my family, my friends, my apartment, my life. "And the other choice?" I asked. "Stay. Finish the incomplete records. Keep the town safe from what's buried in its past. Become what I became." I backed towards the stairs. "I quit," I said. "I walk out of here and never come back." Lillian's expression softened with something like pity. "You think the building needs your permission." The basement door slammed shut below me. My flashlight died. Darkness swallowed everything. Then the scanner sound echoed from upstairs. Mechanical, steady. Printing, printing, printing. Light returned suddenly. I was sitting in my chair, hands on the keyboard, scanner humming, coffee warm beside me. The name tag gleamed under the fluorescent light. Archivist, night shift, replacement for L. Harper, 1956. Current archivist, my name. A folder lay on my desk. Inside, a photograph of a young woman entering the records building for her first night shift. She looked nervous, hopeful, unaware. I recognized her. She was me. Outside, dawn light touched the windows. The front door unlocked with a soft click. Mrs. Kavanaugh's voice drifted from the hallway. "Good work," she said. "See you tomorrow night." And somewhere deep below the building, a new box slid neatly onto a shelf, labeled with my name.
I never believed in cursed houses. Old houses, sure. Drafty windows, creaking stairs, pipes that screamed like tortured ghosts whenever someone flushed a toilet. But cursed? That always sounded like something people invented to make normal tragedy feel special. That changed the night I met Evelyn Ward.
It was early February, that kind of winter where the sky turns dark by late afternoon and the cold sinks into your bones long before the temperature drops. I had been on a dating app for a few weeks, half bored, half lonely, scrolling through faces and bios that all blurred together. Then I came across hers. No bright filters, no trendy captions, just a black and white photo of a woman standing in front of a tall iron gate. She wore a dark coat, her hair loose, eyes focused straight into the camera like she could see through the screen. The bio was short. I love forgotten places, old films, quiet music, wine that tastes like memory. I should have swiped past. Something about it felt too intentional, too curated. But I didn't. We matched. Her messages were slow, thoughtful. She asked questions that felt genuine, not the usual small talk. We talked about old theaters, abandoned buildings, books that made us feel unsettled long after we finished them. She had a way of writing that made even normal sentences feel like they carried secrets. After a week, she suggested we meet. For Valentine's Day, she said, somewhere special. I joked that Valentine's Day dates were cursed. She replied with a laughing emoji and said, then we'll make our own rules. We decided on dinner. She offered to host, said her family owned an old estate just outside the city, quiet, private, no neighbors to complain about loud music or late-night laughter. I didn't tell her that something in my chest tightened when she said estate, but I agreed anyway. On the night of February 14th, I took a rideshare out past the last clusters of streetlights, past the gas stations and fast food places, past the neat suburban houses. The road grew narrow, trees crowded in. The driver slowed. "You sure this is the place?" he asked. My phone showed the destination just ahead. "Yeah," I said, though I wasn't sure anymore. The car stopped in front of tall iron gates. Twisted vines wrapped around the bars like skeletal fingers. A gravel driveway stretched into darkness beyond. The driver didn't pull in. "I'll wait here while you get out, just in case." I laughed nervously and stepped out. Cold air slapped my face. When I turned to wave goodbye, the car was already reversing away, tires crunching faster than necessary. Headlights vanished back down the road. The gates creaked open by themselves. I froze. Then a figure stepped forward from the shadows. Evelyn. She wore a long crimson dress, no coat, no shoes. Her bare feet touched the icy gravel like it didn't bother her. She smiled and raised a hand in greeting. "You came," she said. Her voice sounded exactly like her messages read, soft, smooth, slightly distant. I nodded, suddenly aware of how loudly my heart was beating. "Happy Valentine's," she said, stepping close and kissing my cheek. Her lips were cold, not just cool from the air, cold like stone. Before I could comment, she turned and walked toward the house. I followed, gravel crunching under my shoes. Her footsteps made no sound at all. The estate rose ahead of us, 4 stories, dark brick, tall windows reflecting the cloudy sky. Ivy climbed the walls like veins. The front door opened as we reached it, slow and deliberate. Warm light spilled out. Inside, the house smelled of old wood, candle wax, and something floral I couldn't place. Heavy curtains blocked most of the windows. Oil paintings lined the walls, their subjects posed stiffly, eyes catching the light in uncomfortable ways. "Welcome," Evelyn said. "Make yourself at home." We entered a dining room where a table was already set, 2 plates, silverware polished, candles burning with tall, steady flames. A record player in the corner hummed softly, though no music played yet. She poured wine, dark red, thick. It clung to the glass when she swirled it. "To new company," she said. We drank. The wine was sweet, almost too sweet, like fruit left on the vine too long. Dinner was simple: bread, cheese, thin slices of meat. I didn't ask what kind. I didn't want to know. We talked about movies, about old towns, about loneliness. She laughed in the right places, smiled just a little too long after each sentence, like she was memorizing my reactions. At one point, I asked about her family. "You said this is your family's house," I said. "Do they live here too?" Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling. "They're here," she said, "just resting." Something about the way she said it made me stop chewing. To break the tension, I joked, "Old family estate, secretive residence, what are you hiding? Vampires?" She didn't laugh. Instead, she tilted her head. "Something older," she said quietly. The record player crackled. Without anyone touching it, music began. A slow waltz, soft, sad, familiar in a way I couldn't place. Evelyn stood and extended her hand. "Dance with me," she said. I hesitated, then stood, took her hand. Her fingers were cold, but they fit perfectly around mine. We moved slowly across the dining room. The candlelight flickered. Shadows of the paintings stretched along the walls. The house creaked around us like it was breathing. Her head rested against my shoulder. "Will you stay tonight?" she whispered. Every instinct told me no, that something here was wrong, that I should invent an excuse and leave while I still could. But her voice slid into my thoughts like warm smoke. "Yes," I heard myself say. The candles went out instantly. Darkness swallowed the room. I stumbled back. "Evelyn?" No answer. A single light flickered on in the hallway outside. I stepped toward it. My shoes echoed on the wooden floor, too loudly, like the house was suddenly empty. I walked through room after room, calling her name. Library, parlor, study. In the study, I noticed the desk. Papers scattered, a leather-bound journal open. I leaned over it. The handwriting was neat, old-fashioned. February 14th, 1892. She returned tonight. She will take another. The house grows stronger. I flipped the page. February 14th, 25. She danced again. The new lover suspects nothing. They never do. Another page. February 14th, 1984. I tried to leave. The halls stretched. The doors vanished. She is not a woman. She is the vow. My stomach tightened. I dropped the journal and turned. Evelyn stood in the doorway. But she looked different. Her skin glowed faintly, like wax under candlelight. Her eyes reflected gold instead of brown. Her smile stretched too wide. "You read it," she said softly. "What are you?" I asked. She stepped closer. The floorboards did not creak beneath her. "I was betrayed here," she said, "on Valentine's night, long ago. I loved. I was promised. Then I was abandoned to die in this house. So I made a vow. Every year I return. Every year I take a heart to replace the one I lost." I backed away. "That's insane," I said. "I'm leaving." She sighed. "I hoped you'd be different," she said. The lights went out again. This time, when they returned, the hallway behind me stretched impossibly long. Doors repeated where there had been none before. Paintings hung where walls had been blank moments earlier. Whispers filled the air. "Stay. Dance. Say yes." I ran, down hallways that twisted, stairs that led back to the same landing, doors that opened into rooms I had already left. Finally, I pushed open a door at random and stumbled into a staircase leading down. The basement. Cold air rushed up, the smell of earth and stone and something else, something sour. I descended, every step heavier than the last. At the bottom, my phone flashlight revealed the room. Bones. Dozens of skeletons arranged along the walls, all dressed in remnants of suits, jackets, dresses. Some still wore rings, watches, necklaces. Lovers. In the center of the room sat a figure made of wax, a perfect replica of Evelyn, seated on a wooden chair, hands folded, eyes closed. Behind it, a mirror. I glanced at my reflection and saw a painting forming on the wall behind me, fresh brushstrokes appearing from nowhere, a gilded frame growing outward, my face emerging on the canvas, terrified, frozen. A cold breath brushed my neck. "You said yes," Evelyn whispered. I turned. She floated inches above the ground now, dress trailing like spilled blood. Her eyes burned like candle flames. "You will stay," she said, "and next year I will dance again." The house inhaled, and the door behind me slammed shut.
The door behind me slammed so hard the basement walls shook. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Not the kind of silence you find in an empty room, but the kind that feels alive, watching. I tried the handle, locked. Of course it was. I turned back to the basement. My phone flashlight trembled in my grip. The beam swept over the skeletons again. Their empty eye sockets glimmered as if they still held sight. Some were slumped against the walls. Others lay curled like they died in fear. All of them dressed for romance. Dinner jackets, dress shirts, silk scarves. One skeleton still clutched a wilted bouquet of dried roses. My stomach twisted. "You will stay," Evelyn's voice echoed around the room, not from one direction, from everywhere. I backed away until I hit the wall, my breath fogged in the cold air. I didn't know if I was shaking from fear or from the chill creeping into my bones. I forced myself to think. This had to be real. A house, walls, doors, locks. Curses weren't real. People were real. And this, whatever Evelyn was, had to have a weakness. I moved toward the staircase. The moment my foot touched the first step, the house groaned. The wood beneath me rippled like liquid. The stairs stretched upward, longer than they should have been, twisting slightly, like they were trying to turn me back. I climbed anyway. Halfway up, I looked back. The basement floor was gone. Below me was darkness, endless, deep. No walls, no ground, just a void that swallowed the flashlight beam. I didn't look down again. When I reached the top step, I pushed open the door. The hallway beyond was wrong, longer than before. The ceiling arched higher. Paintings crowded every inch of wall space now. Each canvas depicted a man. Different faces, different eras, all dressed for an evening out, all with eyes wide in terror. One painting was unfinished, a blank silhouette, waiting for me. "Please," I said out loud, unsure if I was talking to the house or to Evelyn. "I didn't know. I'll leave. I won't tell anyone. Just let me go." A soft laugh drifted through the hall. "You already promised. You agreed to stay." "I didn't mean forever." "That is what love is. A vow, a binding, a joining." The hallway darkened. The air thickened. The floorboards warmed beneath my feet like a heartbeat. I ran. Doors flew open as I passed them, rooms inside filled with candlelight and shadow. Some showed dinner tables set for two. Others had four-poster beds with red velvet sheets. Every room felt like a trap waiting to close. I burst into what I thought was the entry hall, but the front door was gone. In its place stood a tall mirror framed in gold. My reflection stared back, breathing hard, eyes wild. For a moment, I thought I saw something else in the glass, a second figure right behind me. I spun. Nothing. When I turned back, the reflection was smiling, but I wasn't. I stumbled away from the mirror. "You cannot leave," Evelyn's voice said gently. "No one leaves once the house has chosen them." Chosen. That word hit harder than the fear. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. She had picked me long before I walked through those gates. I ducked into a side room and slammed the door. I wedged a heavy chair under the handle. My chest burned from breathing too fast. My thoughts spiraled. Think. I pulled out my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi,
battery draining faster than it should. Then I remembered the journal, the study. If there were records, there might be a way out, a clue, a weakness. I opened the door carefully. The hallway beyond was empty. No whispers, no shifting walls. I sprinted for the study. The desk was exactly where I left it. The journal lay open. I flipped through the pages faster this time. Every Valentine's Day, every decade, sometimes more often. Then I found something different. A page marked in darker ink, the handwriting rougher, frantic. She grows weaker when the vow is broken. If the chosen heart refuses her before the final dance, the house will release them. But no one refuses. No one remembers themselves long enough. Before the final dance. My mind snapped back to the waltz. Her hand in mine, her whisper. Will you stay the night? I had said yes, the vow. But it hadn't finished, not fully. Something about the final dance. The record player. The waltz. My hands shook as I tore the page from the journal and shoved it into my pocket. Behind me, the study door creaked open. Slowly. I turned. Evelyn stood there, floating again, her skin glowing like candle wax near a flame. You are searching for loopholes, she said. I'm leaving, I said. My voice shook, but I meant it. I'm not yours. She tilted her head. A sad expression passed across her face, almost human. They all say that, she whispered. The walls of the study melted away, revealing the dining room again. The table reset, candles burning, wine poured, the record player ready. A chair pulled itself out of the table, inviting, demanding. Final dance, Evelyn said. Then you belong. I backed away. No. The candles flickered violently. The house groaned. Paintings rattled on the walls. Evelyn's eyes burned brighter. You already promised, she repeated. I thought of the journal page. The vow could be broken before the final dance. I straightened my spine. I don't love you. I don't want you. I don't belong here. For the first time, something cracked in her expression. The room pulsed. The record player screeched. The needle dragged across vinyl in a horrible, distorted scream. You will dance, she hissed. I grabbed the nearest candle and hurled it at the record player. Flame burst across the wooden table. The cloth caught instantly. Fire climbed toward the ceiling. Evelyn screamed, not in pain, in fury. The house reacted. Walls warped, floors tilted, paintings peeled away, faces dissolving into melting paint. Smoke filled the air. I ran. The hallway finally led where it should. The front door stood at the end, real, solid. I yanked it open and burst into the cold night. The iron gates stood open again. The gravel driveway stretched out to the empty road beyond. Behind me, the house roared like a living thing. Flames poured from the windows. The roof sagged. The walls collapsed inward. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. Only then did I turn back. There was no house. No rubble. No smoke. No fire. Just an empty field. Frosted grass. Bare trees. Silent wind. My lungs burned. My legs shook. I pulled out my phone. Signal. Full bars. The time read 11:58 p.m. February 14th. The same night. No hours lost. No missing time. I walked until I found a passing car. The driver took one look at my face and didn't ask questions, just drove me back toward the city. I didn't speak the whole ride. When I got home, I showered, scrubbed my skin, washed my clothes, tried to remove the smell of candle smoke that still clung to me. Before bed, I emptied my pockets. A torn piece of journal paper sat in my palm. The ink was still fresh. She grows weaker when the vow is broken. I dropped it into the sink and watched water wash the words away. I quit dating apps after that, avoided Valentine's Day, avoided old houses, antique shops, forgotten estates. Life moved on. Until 1 year later, February 14th, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. No name, no picture, just one sentence. "Will you dance this year?" And attached beneath it, a black and white photo. A tall iron gate. Vines crawling like fingers. Waiting. I never thought twice about rideshare apps. To me, they were just another part of modern life. Tap a screen, get a car, go home. Simple, safe, trackable. Or at least that's what I believed before the night I met the driver who never should have existed. My name is Danny Mercer. At the time, I lived in a mid-sized city in northern Oregon. Not too big, not too small. The kind of place where coffee shops stayed open late, rain was constant, and people liked to believe nothing truly bad ever happened. That night started like any other. I had been at a friend's birthday gathering downtown. Nothing wild, just drinks, laughter, bad karaoke, the usual. By the time I left, it was close to midnight. The rain had turned the streets into shining black ribbons. My car was in the shop, so I opened the rideshare app. A driver accepted almost immediately. Name? Aaron. Car? Dark gray sedan. Rating? 4.9 stars. Rides? Over 2,000. Reliable enough. He arrived in less than 3 minutes. I barely noticed the car roll up. It stopped silently at the curb, wipers sweeping like slow metronomes. I slid into the back seat, shaking rain from my jacket. "Hi, Aaron," I said. He didn't answer right away. Then, without turning his head, he muttered, "Evening." His voice was low and rough, like gravel in a tin can. I told myself not to overthink it. Some drivers just weren't chatty. The car pulled away from the curb. City lights blurred past the windows. Music played quietly from the radio, but it wasn't a song I recognized, just a soft hum under faint static. I leaned back, letting the warmth of the heater relax me. After a few minutes, something tugged at my attention. We weren't going the usual way. I knew the route to my apartment well. A straight main road, a short highway stretch, then 3 turns into my neighborhood. Instead, Aaron took a left onto a narrow side street lined with closed storefronts and dark windows. I opened the app. The map still showed we were en route. Estimated arrival, 18 minutes. That was odd. It was usually 12. "Hey," I said lightly, "is traffic bad on the main road?" No response. I tried again, just wondering if there's a faster way. This time, he slowly lifted his eyes to the rearview mirror. His eyes met mine. His eyes were pale, too pale, a washed-out gray that didn't reflect light the way normal eyes did. They looked like fogged glass. Then he smiled. Not friendly, not polite, just a slow stretching of lips that never reached his eyes. My stomach tightened. I looked back down at my phone. The map flickered. The blue dot that showed my location stuttered, then froze. "No signal," the app announced. The music on the radio crackled louder. Through the static, I thought I heard a whisper, a woman's voice repeating numbers in a dull monotone. 8, 0, 4, 2, over and over. I leaned forward slightly. "Sorry, could you turn that down?" Aaron didn't move, didn't blink, just kept driving. We left the lively downtown grid and entered an industrial area. Warehouses, empty lots, chain-link fences crowned with rust, no streetlights, only the car's headlights carving a narrow tunnel through the dark. "Hey," I said more firmly, "this isn't the right way. Can you pull over and let me out?" He spoke without looking at me. "Not yet." 2 words. Cold. Final. A pulse of panic shot through me. I grabbed the door handle and pulled. It didn't open. Child lock. My breathing quickened. I sat back, forcing myself not to scream yet. Think, stay calm. I unlocked my phone again, tried to call my roommate. No signal. Tried to open another map app. No signal. Outside, the city had vanished. We were now on a long, empty road flanked by dark trees. No buildings, no houses, just forest swallowing the horizon. "Aaron," I said, my voice shaking, "I want to get out now." He slowed the car slightly, then turned his head towards me. The light from the dashboard cast his face in greenish shadow. His skin looked wrong, too smooth, too tight across his cheekbones, like someone had stretched it over a frame that didn't quite fit, and his smile widened. "You order the ride home," he said softly. "I'm taking you home." My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's not my home," I said. "You'll see," he replied. The radio whisper grew louder. 8, 0, 4, 2, 8, 0, 4, 2. I decided then that I wasn't staying in this car. I unclipped my seatbelt, crawled forward between the seats as quietly as I could. Aaron's hands were still on the wheel, keys in the ignition. He hadn't locked the front doors. I moved fast. I grabbed the gear shift, shoved it into park, then into reverse, and floored the accelerator. The car jerked violently backwards. Aaron shouted something that didn't sound human, not a word, a raw, tearing sound like metal being ripped in half. The car skidded. I yanked the steering wheel, spun the vehicle around, and hit the gas again. Trees blurred, darkness rushed past. I didn't stop until I saw light ahead, a gas station glowing like a beacon in the night. I slammed on the brakes, threw open the door, and ran inside, barefoot on cold tile, soaked and shaking. The clerk looked up, startled. I must have looked half dead. "I need help," I gasped. "Call the police." He locked the doors, handed me a phone, and watched as I tried to explain between shaking breaths. By the time officers arrived and drove back to the location I described, there was nothing there. No car, no tracks, no record in the rideshare app. The ride didn't exist. The driver didn't exist. The account showed no history of a trip that night. Even stranger, my phone's GPS logs showed I never left my friend's apartment building. But I knew what I saw. I knew what I heard. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched missing persons reports in the city's archive. One case caught my eye. A young woman vanished after getting into a rideshare car. Date missing, August 4th, 2002. 8, 0, 4, 2. The numbers from the radio. I closed the laptop and didn't sleep that night. I don't use rideshare apps anymore. I walk, I take buses, I call friends. Because somewhere out there, on a road without streetlights, a car is still driving. A driver with fog glass eyes, picking up passengers who never make it home.
I told myself I was safe. After that night, the police drove me home. They stood in my doorway while I locked every door and window, like a courtesy more than real protection. One of them gave me a card with a case number. The other reminded me to call if I saw the driver again. Their voices were calm, professional, distant. The kind of calm people use when they think you're exaggerating, but still want to be polite. When they left, I sat on my couch with every light on in the apartment. I didn't sleep. Every time a car passed outside, headlights slid across my walls and I flinched. Every engine sound made my stomach tighten. I kept replaying the ride in my head. The wrong turns, the radio whispering numbers, his smile, the way the locks clicked. By morning, I was shaking from exhaustion. The first thing I did was delete the ride app. Then I deleted my account. Then I changed my email password. Then my phone number. I even wiped my phone's cache like that could erase memory itself. I told myself I was taking control. I told myself it was over. For the next few weeks, I walked everywhere, rain or shine, day or night. I would rather walk 40 minutes through empty streets than sit in another stranger's car. My friends thought I was being dramatic. I didn't tell them everything. I just said I had a bad experience. They laughed it off. Creepy drivers happen, they said. At least nothing actually happened. They were right about one thing. Nothing physical happened. No assaults, no abduction, no official crime. Just a ride that disappeared from records. Just a driver that didn't exist. Just terror sitting in the back seat of a moving car with no way out. A month passed. Then 2. Eventually, I started sleeping again. Not deeply, but enough. My hands stopped shaking. I stopped checking locks 3 times before bed. Life started to feel normal. Then, one night, I got an email. It came to an old account I barely used anymore. The subject line was blank. No sender name, just a string of letters that didn't look like a real address. The message contained only one sentence. Still walking home? My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I checked the email details. No location, no IP trace, nothing useful. I deleted it immediately, then dug it out of the trash folder and deleted it again. My breathing was shallow, my palms were damp. I told myself it was spam, a coincidence, a prank. The next day, I forced myself to go out. I walked to the grocery store in daylight, telling myself I wouldn't let one email control me. The sky was bright, people were everywhere, cars passed, life looked normal. On my way back, I passed a parked silver sedan. It was an older model, clean, plain, nothing special. But the sight of it made my heart skip. I stopped walking without meaning to, just stood there staring at it. Then I noticed the license plate. It was covered in mud, completely unreadable. I walked faster. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I reached my apartment building and locked myself inside. That night, I checked every window before bed, twice. No one was outside, nothing unusual, but I still slept with the hallway light on. Days passed. Nothing happened. No more emails, no strange cars, no footsteps outside my door. My nerves slowly unclenched again, until the numbers came back. I was at work when it happened, late afternoon, quiet office. I was entering data when I noticed the office radio humming softly in the corner. It was tuned to a low volume station for background noise, nothing unusual. Then I heard a whisper beneath the music. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but the longer I listened, the clearer it became. A woman's voice, soft, monotone. 7, 1, 9, 0. Over and over. My chair rolled back as I stood up so fast it clattered. My coworker looked up, confused. I asked him if he heard it. He frowned and turned up the radio. The whisper vanished, just music. I didn't explain. I just said I needed air and stepped outside, breathing hard in the parking lot like I'd been underwater. That night, I didn't go home right away. I walked aimlessly through busy streets until dark. When I finally returned to my building, everything looked normal. Until I reached my door. Something was stuck to it. A small square of paper held by clear tape. My hands shook as I peeled it off. It was a bus ticket. Old, yellowed, creased, stamped with faded ink. Route 0. Return trip pending. I dropped it like it burned. I checked the hallway. Empty, silent, no footsteps, no doors opening, nothing. Then I picked up the ticket again and threw it in the trash chute. Then I went inside and locked every lock, then pushed a chair against the door, then sat on my couch with all the lights on until sunrise. In the morning, I went to the police station. The officer at the desk listened politely, took notes, asked if I had any enemies, any exes, any reason someone would be harassing me.
I told him no. I showed him the email. I told him about the ride that didn't exist, the car that disappeared from records, the ticket on my door. He sighed softly and told me they'd keep an eye on it. That freeze again, a freeze that means nothing. I walked home in daylight, feeling smaller than I ever had. After that, I changed apartments. New building, new neighborhood. I didn't tell anyone my new address except my parents. I stopped using my full name on social media. I kept my accounts private. I bought pepper spray. I kept it in my pocket every time I left home. Months passed. Nothing happened. No emails, no tickets, no strange cars, no whispers on radios. Slowly, the fear loosened its grip. Until one night, almost a year later, I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when a new email notification appeared. Blank subject, unknown sender. My chest tightened as I opened it. One line, "Next ride is on me." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just turned off my phone, walked to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and sat on the floor with my back against the wall until morning. I never got another message after that. But even now, years later, I don't take ride shares. I don't get into cars with strangers. I don't sit in the back seat of any vehicle unless I know exactly who is driving. And sometimes, when I walk home late at night and a car slows beside me, engine idling softly, I don't look inside. I just walk faster. Because some rides never end. And some drivers are still out there waiting for the next passenger who taps request ride without thinking twice.